Hello, world. This is America's Supermom, and this is a special edition that I call the Corona Chronicles. During this time, we are suffering from a pandemic that is affecting everyone across the world. We are joined with the rules and regulations of being shelter in place, which means we are limited with the ability to go about our daily business, confined to our homes based on a coronavirus that has been sweeping the entire world. For some people, the effects could be mild. For others, it can be fatal. So we are coming together as a community, as a family during this time of difficulty to share what it is like in our part of the world, how we are affected, and the things that we have in common, what kind of problems that are taking place in our industries and in our relationships and finances, and coming together so that we can plan for a better tomorrow. As this epidemic or pandemic crosses the world, we are waiting for relief. We're waiting for the virus to die off and for us to go back to some state of normalcy, whatever that may be, after things kind of settle down. So what is that going to look like once the dust settles? How are things going to be different? So as we go through this process, we're coming together as a world to create ideas, strategies, connect in ways that we have never connected before. So that is the purpose of the special podcast that I call the Corona Chronicles, so that we can get some insight and have empathy and compassion on one another, create new innovative ideas that can not only improve our life, but our fellow brothers and sisters across the world. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank you guys for listening. Our next guest is Raschell, and she and I connected through Facebook. And I'm really excited to have her today. We were able to do a Zoom call, and I loved her approach of, having the mindset to collaborate. During these times when we're dealing with the pandemic, we all can collaborate to do something. And so I'm really excited to be able to be here with her today and for her to share her wisdom and insight as to how we can move forward from here. So at this time, I want Raschell to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her, and we'll go right into the interview.
Thank you, Lachelle, for the great introduction. As you said, my name is Raschell Harlingten. I am a transformational intuitive energy coach and an entrepreneur. And I started on this journey probably 3-4 years ago of just really changing up the way I think about life and influencing the younger generation, being that I have two teenagers. I grew up with a lot of the same mindset of a lot of people have of, get a good job, go to school, and go through the process of building a family. However, in 2011, everything kind of went, or even 2007, everything kind of started to shift. And I started taking a different trajectory and started realizing about myself and about really what I could do to impact the human consciousness and really help support people, women, entrepreneurs. And it started with me, of course. And in 2011, I began my first business. And from there, it's just snowballed. And I've met great people like yourself, and been able to collaborate and connect with people, not only in Canada, the United States, and in London, England, to be able to share just a global message of sort of how we can support everybody. So,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. And, I'm really intrigued about, the whole thing of having the teenagers. With me having 12 kids sheltered in place, what are some tips that you could give some of the moms out here that, these teenagers, this is a prime time. A lot of them just got their license, or they have proms and things like this that are just not going to take place this year. So, what advice would you give the mothers to kind of navigate through that?
Well, I mean, this is a trying time for all of us.
Mhm.
With my one, I have a 20-year-old and a almost 16-year-old. And what I have
Mhm.
really tried to share with them is this moment in time is a time for all of us to really, in a sense, go within and look at those four main things that are going on. And that really lends itself to the physicality of how we're treating our bodies physically, how we're supporting
Mm.
ourselves emotionally, what we're thinking
Mhm.
about mentally, and on the end, how we're helping others in a social atmosphere. So what I've shared
Mm.
with my daughter is just to really go within and try and find something that she really wants to do with her life, something that is really inspiring. And one thing I've shared with my kids since day one is, if there is something that I have shared with you or I have said to you that you do resonate with in any shape or form, in a respectful way, say, you know what? I don't resonate with that, Mom. It doesn't fit me. It doesn't serve me. I don't feel I want to go down that path. And I'm open to it. Sometimes
Mhm.
we take and bring along a lot of our stuff that was given to us as kids, and we say, you have
Mhm.
to do this. And the child goes, well, wait a minute. I don't feel like I should do that. I don't want to do that. And we tend to, as parents, go, but you should do it because it's just the way you have to do it. But what I've learned is to say, all right, then you show me what you need to do. And I have found with both of my kids, I've let them have challenges. I've let them, I
Mhm.
don't like to say fail, but go get to the point where they
Mhm.
need to sort of say, you know what, I made a mistake, but I let them make the decision. Let them make the
Mhm.
mistake so they can see firsthand. As a parent, that's really super hard because you
Mhm.
want to, especially a mom, you want to protect them. But the best thing
Mhm.
you can do is to let them go through what they have to go through and support them. So going through this right now, I've shared with both of them, this is time to be with family. This is time to really fix those things that maybe were falling out of sync. For
Mhm.
me, my children were not really
Mhm.
talking much anymore before this started. They would The
Mhm.
older one would berate the younger one would berate the older one, and this would go on. And as a mother, that was really
Mhm.
upsetting. And I'm a single mom, so I would sit there and go, this is really upsetting. And what I've
Mhm.
noticed, which has just made my heart so happy, is I've watched them now sit at the dinner table and joke with each other and talk to each other and share stuff on social media together. And I feel like that
Mhm.
quiet time, that time to be together where there's not all that other stuff, is that it's bringing them back to
Mhm.
where they need to be, right?
Mhm.
So,
I love that. Yeah, and that I've experienced the same thing. In my situation is, I call it the victim syndrome that I used to have. Everything was centered around me and me being in a hospital for depression, and I've definitely let that go. But when you're in that space, it's hard to let go
yeah,
of being that mom because you're thinking, well, if they're not doing something right or if they'll fail, that's a reflection of me instead of it being a reflection of your
right.
kids. And so for somebody who is at that space and it's like, yeah, this sounds good, but how do I begin to do that? What are some little steps that they could take to kind of begin to pull back a little bit and start letting their kids
make their own
I feel
choices.
like having a conversation, depending on how many kids
Mm-hmm.
you have, starting in your case, you have to have 12. But I mean, I think it starts with a conversation of really not coming from a place of that parent figure, or even maybe just not even a friend, but just
Mm-hmm.
having an open conversation and actually listening to what the child wants to share with you. Because when they feel that
Mm-hmm.
there's a block, that they can't share their
Mm-hmm.
deepest feelings of maybe they want to do something, but they don't know who to share it with, but they're scared to share it with that parent, that's something you want to sort of maybe break down. So building that trust of, I'm not going to judge what
Mm-hmm.
you say. I'm going to openly heart
Mm-hmm.
listen to what you have to say. And then from a place of, I feel love, you can come back with a really great response just to say, yeah, I don't agree with what you're saying, or I do agree with what you're saying, but that's just my opinion. And my opinion is neither right nor wrong. It's mine, right? That way the
Mm-hmm.
child
Mm-hmm.
feels more open to share with you, and they're not going to be judged. Because I find with a lot of kids, and this is because before all this happened, my children would have a lot of kids over, and I would have these teenagers like spilling their story out to me, like their whole life story. And I was like, wow, do you share this with your parents? They're like, no, I can't talk to
Mm-hmm.
my parents, man. Can't tell them. They'd like, they'd ban me. They'd throw me out of the house. And I feel for them, right? So really,
Yeah.
I think for me, and this is being open with your kids and letting them have a platform to share their inner feelings with you as to what they want to do. When you
Mm-hmm.
do that, you free them. You let them express themselves. And that's ultimately the best way, because
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to soar. Then they don't feel held down, right? So I think the first
Right.
step is to really have a conversation with them and really start to build that open dialogue between the two of you if you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So
That is so good. Now, so for somebody who, and I'm just being, basic, layman's terms. So you want to have that conversation. What does that look like for the mom or the dad? How do they say that in a way that the child can trust that it's okay? Because you can have these conversations and it's like you're talking at your kids. So it's like, okay, everybody sit down. We're listening to you guys, but they're like, no, we've kind of been here before. And just like you said, some of these kids confiding in you because they feel like they can never tell their parents these things. So what are some key words or key phrases maybe a parent can use to make the child feel comfortable to be transparent? You know what I'm
I don't
saying?
think it's going to just take one conversation, to be honest, Lachelle. I think it'll take probably a couple if your
Okay.
child is not open to, like if there is a segregation. So for
Right.
someone who maybe doesn't have that
Mhm.
open dialogue, I think it's about
Mhm.
having a one-on-one conversation, not just sitting them down. It's finding something, you see, when the mind is busy doing something. So if you're interacting with your child, you're doing dishes, or maybe you're playing a game of Monopoly, or you're watching a funny movie, it's those times where the frontal lobe of the brain is kind of engaged in what it's doing. So the child
Mhm.
can open up more from the inside, in a sense, from their true essence of who they are. And so they're not so
Mm.
guarded.
Mm.
And it's relating to them on that very,
Mm.
how can I say, sort of really common level of, you're just chatting about the dishes or you're chatting about something. And then they start to feel more relaxed. And then they will start
Right.
to open up to you and start to share things with you and say,
Mm.
you know what, I want to share something with you,
Mhm.
mom, or I want to share something with you, dad. Please don't be mad at me, or please don't judge me. I just want to share. And then it's your
Mhm.
responsibility to say, absolutely, share, and I will listen to it with an open mind.
Mhm.
And some of the stuff that may come out, I can tell you, maybe at times you might be like, oh, wow, okay, I'm going to keep calm about this now. But that's also you understanding that you've built now this trust, and that if you go off the handle, that
Right.
door is just going to go bang and close again, and then there might not be a second chance
Exactly.
for you. So this is where you to take
So
that
true.
information and really digest it and sort of think about it and come from a non-judgmental place and response. So
Mhm.
it may be a couple of
Mhm.
conversations that you may need to have during this time, right? not just one.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
doing it in a place, like I
Mhm.
said, where the child is not feeling like they're being integrated, in sort of, what's the word? Interrogated. Yeah.
Interrogate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah, that's good. And that's some real realistic things that people can explore, because I think, even like you said, the kids may tell us something that you're like, "Oh, I wasn't quite
Hmm.
ready for that." You know, where do you think that comes from? Just as a parent, because it's so profound how we'll say, I'll go and say something to my husband. He's like, you were a kid before. They're not doing anything new, right? And so, why is it that there's that space there that has you have that response when you've been in their shoes before? So I'm just confused as to why we
I
have that.
honestly, and I talk a lot about this in my program. It's the social paradigms. It's cultural influences. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
this is what you did. Now you can't do that anymore. Now you must do this. And then we tend to, as adults,
Mhm.
then put that on top of our children. Oh no, you can't do that. But you also have
Mm.
to look at, well, wait a minute. That child, just like you said, is going through the same thing that I did. So I don't want to use the word hypocrite, but you
Mhm.
almost have to say, well, wait a minute, I did that and
Right.
they're doing it. So I kind of have
Right.
to come to a good level here and say, okay, I understand. Instead of saying, oh, what you did is terrible. How could you do that? Oh my gosh. And meanwhile, you did that or something similar to it. So
Right.
there has to be, some transparency with you as well. So you have to
Yeah.
understand that if they're going to tell you
Yeah.
something that maybe you take your breath away or you step back and you realize, wow, okay. And that brings up feelings for you. Recognize what that brings up for you, because more than likely that's something you have to
Mm.
also deal with as well. And,
I
so
love that.
really understanding
Mhm.
that on both parts, that's unfortunately society tends to sort of put us in these little boxes where, it's like we have to be like this and be like that. And I really feel that that's not the way life is, you know? I have
Mhm.
tried
Mhm.
over many years to be very open with my children in a sense of, yeah, okay, I did that and I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Um, and I had shared with my older son,
Mhm.
I said something to him along the lines of, I appreciate that I did it and you are doing it and I'm not being hypocritical. However, why don't we wait until you're a little bit older and you have a more mental capacity to sort of understand the pros and cons of what's going on before you dive in?
Mm.
I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm
Mhm.
just saying, why don't you get a little bit more information so you can make an informed choice and do something for you that down the line may be in a positive reflection rather than a negative. And I left that with him,
I
and
love
he came
that.
back and said, you
Yeah.
know what, you're right. I'm going to wait a little bit. And that made me a
Mm.
little bit, it
That's
made me feel a
awesome.
little better, but I did it from a place of giving him a choice, but letting him make the choice as opposed to me going,
Right.
you're not going to do that. That's absolutely not what's going to happen. Right.
Right. Right. And it's hard to get to that point, you know what I mean? Because it's just that inner conflict where you want them to have the best, do the best, make all the right choices, get all the right answers. So that is so good. Now, so you're a transformational coach, and this is very important during this time because so many people are in a place to where their jobs are changing, or maybe the job they've been doing for years is going to be eliminated based on just something as short term as this pandemic
Mm-hmm.
that we're experiencing right now. It can change the landscape forever. So in terms of transforming people and their mindset, what advice would you give some of them who are listening and are kind of struggling with this?
Well,
You
it's
know.
a little, I will go back to a little bit what I said at the beginning. A lot of people are looking at
Mhm.
what we're going through now from sort of a fear aspect, as opposed to everything happens for a
Mhm.
reason. Nothing happens by chance. And this is globally is really
Mhm.
helping everybody to go within. And during this quarantine time, it really is
Mhm.
about spending time reassessing our physical. What are we doing for our bodies? How are we feeding them? Are we not getting enough sleep? Are we
Mhm.
stressed out? Are we drinking too much coffee, too many cigarettes?
Mhm.
So really looking at it from a physical sense, because if your physical body and your health are not in a good place, it doesn't matter about anything else, right? So taking the time to really
Mhm.
assess
Mhm.
that. And then the next one is to look at the
Mhm.
emotional. What do you say to yourself every day? How do you treat yourself? What is your mind chatter? Do you think you're
Mhm.
a good person, a bad person? Like, what is going on with you emotionally? Do you feel downtrodden? Do you feel inspired? Really
Mhm.
assessing that and spending time really diving deep into that, because this is what this is about. This is for everybody to really shift, because I feel like after this happens, our world will never
Mhm.
be the same. It will be looked at very differently. And then there's
Mhm.
the mental part of it, where it's understanding that what our parents or our grandparents taught us, does it serve us today? Is
Mhm.
there something that maybe that we need to look at and say, well, I've been doing
Mhm.
this because my grandmother taught me to do it, but does it serve you? Do you need to do that? Or
Mhm.
do you follow the trend
Mhm.
of everything that social
Mhm.
media or, cultural tells you to do? Do you feel trapped in that? So really looking at what is serving me and in my life currently. And then the last thing is socially. We are all one. We're all connected. That is undeniable. So what are you
Mhm.
doing to really support the rest of the world? How are you sort of like giving back in a way? Is it
Mhm.
through just supporting another person, a neighbor? What
Mhm.
can you do in this time that will really help you grow? So it really is about raising your energy, and that way you change your life and you have the potential to be whatever you want, to go wherever you want. This time is sort of like a gift.
Mhm.
It's a gift to really go within, because when you
Mhm.
go within, you start to listen to really all of the things that
Mhm.
are important in life, and you start to make those changes. So for people that are perhaps in jobs that maybe are not going to be there when they come out of this, this is a chance for them to really assess whether or not that employment was something that
Mhm.
inspired them, something that made them get up in the morning and want to be alive, want to go to work, want to be with those people. When we look at that,
Mhm.
that will give you your
Mhm.
answers right there, Lachelle. It'll tell you. So it really is
Mhm.
about going
Mhm.
within in this
I
time.
love that. Yeah, I love that. And so, what are some things that you would suggest that people would read or podcasts to listen to? Because a lot of people, it's like we're telling them, if they don't know how to swim, to just get in the water, and they're like, I don't know, So, some things that we have to actually practice, in order to create that environment, because a lot of people, I mean, for us as coaches, we understand the work of doing the work within and creating your environment and making sure you're saying the right words to manifest what it is you're working towards. But for people who this is foreign language to, what would you suggest they start
Well, we could
reading
start by
or
listening to
podcast
yours.
or something?
You've
Oh,
got some
thank
great
you.
content on your podcast. Um, I can speak to that because I was in that place. I mean, I've always been a little intuitive, but I got caught up in the social,
Mhm.
paradigms and sort of forgot all of that. And I understand that
Mhm.
it's fear.
Mhm.
It's fear of doing something that is not the same, and
Mhm.
change is very hard for some people. So my suggestion to a lot of my
Mhm.
clients when they take some of my programs is to take baby steps. Don't try and do everything at once. So there's a great
Mhm.
book. I'm sure you've read it. It was probably one of my first books called The Slight Edge. It's a great book. Yeah,
I've heard of that.
yeah.
I haven't,
It's called
what?
The
I actually
Slight
haven't
Edge
read
by
that one.
Jeff
I'm writing this
Olson. It's
down.
a fabulous
Okay.
book, and it um, really helps you
Okay.
understand sort of uh, just everything about yourself. And it's yeah.
I
So
think I've
if
seen
if
him
and
on a
it's not a
podcast
hard
or
read,
listened to
so it
him.
gives
He
you a little
sounds
insight.
familiar.
And then
Mhm.
it's just little
Mhm.
things. So it's like assessing sort of what your morning, I would even start with just what your morning routine is. Do you get up, do you get up in gratitude? Do you get up feeling
Mhm.
inspired, or do you get up out of bed grumpy and miserable, look for the first thing you
Mhm.
can eat and, you know, bark at a few orders here and there and then think about, oh
Mhm.
God, what have I got to do today? So really just sort of assessing, how do I wake up every morning? What do I feel? Like, how do I feel when I wake up?
Right.
And what can I tweak?
Mhm.
Maybe one small thing just to sort of, so when I'm getting up, I'm
Mhm.
actually inspired. And I used to say to one of my clients, just if you have
Mhm.
animals, if not children, just finding something there that you can feel in gratitude for. So if it's your cat, if it's your child coming to cuddle with you in bed,
Mhm.
the beautiful morning, just something small. And
Mhm.
when you start from that small space of gratitude, as you know, things start to
Mhm.
change as you're starting to change with your energy as you put it out there,
Mhm.
instead of getting up and feeling angry and frustrated or not sure. So yeah,
Mhm.
I really, it's baby steps. It's not going to happen overnight, and you and I both know that. I
Mhm.
mean, it took me years to get to the
Mhm.
place, almost
Yes.
10, um, of doing little things
Yeah.
every day to get to a point where I am now. I know,
Mhm.
but
So true. Yeah, so true. Yeah, I love that. So, what type of programs do you have available now? Because I know there's a lot of people that are probably like, hey, you know, in terms of even finding a coach, because a lot of people, they're in this space where they need some coaching or whatever. So, what type
so
of
I have a couple
programs do you
different
offer?
programs, and I will just backtrack quickly. They're actually, I was gonna
Mhm.
totally forgot about my own book. Um, I was gonna say I actually have a book on Amazon which you can buy in Kindle or hard copy, and it's called Discover Your
Okay.
Prosperity
Yes.
Blueprint. It's an easy read. It actually made it number one
Oh.
in the short reads
Mhm.
last year. Um, but it's one of those books that when you pick it up and you read it
Okay.
and you put it back down and then you pick it up again, you get a different message, because it's all, and it's not like I said, it's an easy
I
read.
love
So
that.
that's another book I might suggest, because it really gives support into what I just spoke about earlier. But my programs range from
Mhm.
different things. I have, of course, one-on-one coaching. I have a fantastic program called Discover Your
Mhm.
Blueprint, which is starting in May. Um, and this is a 5-week course, and
Mhm.
it starts you from scratch. It starts you
Mhm.
from everything. So wherever you are, whatever place you are, we start
Mm.
there. And then we build. We build slowly over the 5 weeks. And I give you
Mhm.
tools for your toolbox so that you feel supported. Um, we clear some of your programs. You get a copy of my book with this program. And at the end of the 5 weeks, I've introduced
Mm.
to you many techniques and little sort of helpful things along the way to keep you going along your journey. So once you're out, you don't have just all these notes and stuff and you're like, now what do I do? I've made you implement it, if you're willing to do the work,
Mhm.
as you move along through the program. Um,
Mhm.
and then there is another program, but this is more along the lines of sort of clearing the subconscious programs. And I do offer those where I sit with a person one-on-one. Again, that's on my website. And we go through a little bit of regression where we
Mhm.
go back, we look through their past life, we look through things that are showing up for them, and
Mm.
then we start to sort of get rid of that subconscious programming so that they can just release it and start to move forward. Because a lot of times, the decisions that we make right now
I love that.
are based on paradigms and programs that were taught to us as
Mhm.
children. And then we bring it forward, and then we wonder
Right.
why am I doing that? And what I explain to people is that when you go through trauma or a
Mhm.
situation that's maybe not the best, your brain sort of like slots it like a computer. Okay, so this is how we're going to
Mhm.
react. And it has an emotion tied to it. And so when you get into the same sort of
Mm.
situation, the brain goes, oh, I know what this is. And it releases an actual chemical, which is your emotion, into your body. And suddenly you feel anger, anxiety, frustration, fear, pain. And you're like, why do I feel this way towards this? It's because it's like, oh,
Mm.
it's like your brain going, yep, this is how you're going to feel. And it releases it because it's tied, it's correlated. So those two are some great
Mm,
programs, which again are on my website, and I do have the one-on-one coaching, and
mhm.
that usually is in a 3-month block where I work with a
Mhm.
person who, I have worked with a couple who've gone through severe divorces, a lot of trauma, and so we've started slowly rebuilding their life because they had
Mm,
3 teenagers, and it was just a lot of work for them to get through it all. And
mhm.
she's done really well. She owns her own house now. Her kids are
Yeah.
happy, and she did really well. So,
Awesome.
hmm
That's awesome. Well, we
thank you,
really
Lachelle.
appreciate your insight. This has been wonderful. Some great nuggets. Yeah. So,
So
what is the
they
best way
could
for
reach out
everybody to
to
get a
me through
hold
my
of you?
website, which I'll share with you here. It's
Okay.
rootedforsuccess.com.
Mhm.
You can also find me on Instagram
Okay.
and Twitter. That's the same. So they can reach out to me through there. They can also
Mhm.
find me on Facebook through the same. I have a Rooted for Success Facebook page. So they can definitely reach out to me in those ways, send me a personal message.
Okay.
I definitely will get back to them. And as I said before, I'm all about supporting women, entrepreneurs, men, as long as it sort of supports them and uplifts their
Mhm.
consciousness and really gives them a great trajectory in where they want to go in life.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate your insight and your time, and thank you so much for this great insight. And I hope everybody's taking notes. I'm always taking notes over here. That's why I get to be quiet. But some great wisdom. So I really appreciate it. Well, you have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Lachelle. Take care.
afternoon, and thanks again for your
Okay, bye
time.
bye.
What a great interview with Rochelle. I really loved her insight and the fact that, we really have a choice in how we decide to move forward with a lot of things in life. And it's a conscious decision that we can make to participate in certain things and really kind of evaluate and go within and figure out, what is it that we really want? What outcomes are we really trying to build? So I love that. Great insight. If there are any of you out there who would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com. You can reach out to me through Facebook Messenger. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and I have a YouTube channel. So I would love to hear your insight, just like we did in Rochelle's this evening. Also, if this is something that resonates with you, you see that has some value, please share it with someone because, during this time of pandemic, it's very important that we all come together as a team and work for a better tomorrow, a better world, and be able to really navigate through some of this uncertainty in a way that serves all of us. So share this with someone who you think may find value. I want to thank you all for listening.